Divine Constitution and bylaws.
Islam, Grand Sheikh. I rise giving perfect praise to Allah and honor to the Prophet, Drew Ali, honor to our forefathers and our foremothers, honor to the Asiatic nations and the Muslims all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on the Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on the Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live the life. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to be faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder. Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office of Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Peace and love.
Gratitude, brother. All right, Islam, brother Kobe, would you please read the writs of the prophet?
Islam, Grand Sheikh. I rise to give all praise to the great God. Allah, I rise to give all honors to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I rise to give honors to the forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I rise to give honors to all ills and bays, all Muslims on call, and all Muslims on the planet. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend it not. Then the times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali, and that's why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they'll be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, have found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Jew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people for their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Jew Ali. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that thought I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation, as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting the funds. The ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Jew Ali, Islam, Islam, Islamism.
All right, Islamism and gratitude, brother. Let's go ahead and read the divine warning. Brother Seymour Bay, would you please read that for us?
Islam, Grand Sheikh.
Islam.
First, I rise and give praise to the Most High, Father God Allah. I give honors to His Holy Prophet, Noble Jew Ali, and to the forerunner to the Prophet, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Give honors to all the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, to all you faithfuls, and our beloved guests on the call. A divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to the national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of that constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they're glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is the free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I'm hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I'm depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national constitution, they've been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issuing names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and the South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way. And without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they have fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and I have examined the conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I'm hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet, Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism and gratitude, brother. All right, Islam. Sister Lachey L, would you please read our additional laws?
Islam. I rise to give praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, honors to Marcus Messiah Garvey, honors to all Moors on the call and all Moors around the world. Questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all business. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon any member, let it be finance, property, and any line of life that will cause the member to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members and any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the grand sheikh. Act 2, all members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid. And if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3, if the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance to aid me in saving the nation, and if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4, all members while up making a public speech must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5, all members must promptly attend their meeting and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. but this is a new era time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey their father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of falling humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and mind pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This is the divine covenant from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam, peace and love.
All right, Islam sister. Actually working on a poll right now. Hang on. Okay. All right. Okay, Moors, everybody can vote on this except me. We just put 3 times in here. Please vote on there for your preferred Sunday school times, and we will take the majority answers into consideration. We've been doing it at 7 o'clock. On there it says 1, 4, and 7. Also, just know that when we meet physically, we'll start meeting again once a month. Next month, it's going to be at 1 o'clock. When we meet, it'll be the last Sunday of each month at 1 o'clock. All right, looks like we're just waiting on 6 people to vote. Okay, just waiting on a couple more people. Okay, so here okay, the people who were co-hosts, I'll take you out so you can vote. So we can go ahead and wrap this up. All right, looks like we're just waiting on 2 or 3 more people. Was everybody able to vote? All right. Okay, looks like we're gonna keep doing it at 7 o'clock. That's what the majority want to do. All right. Okay, just keep in mind that we're gonna start back meeting physically the last Sunday of each month, and that will be at 1 o'clock, the last Sunday of each month. All right. For the people that's not in Columbus, you can just we'll still do it on Zoom, but it'll be at 1 o'clock. So same information, just earlier. All right. Okay, let's get started up. Before we go into the Quran questionnaire, I just want to go over this. I think it's really important, especially now that we all understand this, what we're about, what we stand on, what the Moorish Science Temple of America is actually formed for. This is something that we really need to know inside and out, because with the climate, kind of how things are going, you never know if somebody's going to try to test you on this, just to see where you stand, to see what you're going to say. If you are looking in the Moorish Literature book, this is on page 31. And well, know what? Just go off of the title, Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. This is important because this is written by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. This is law for us. In connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulation of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization covering its inception, rise, and progress, and of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. Right? The Mohammedan religion, this is our religion, and this will be what keeps us adhering to our divine principles. So the emphasis in here is mine. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom at all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, of our posterity, such as obedience to law, right? So we obey the law. True Moorish American Muslims obey the law. I don't care what anyone else is saying. They don't do that and don't follow the prophet. To me, they can get out of here. No disrespect and no hatred towards them. Just saying, true Moorish American Muslims, right? And we don't shirk at the word Muslim or Islam. We're Muslims, fine, whatever. Right? We practice Islam. All right. So you'll see throughout here the prophet uses Mohammedan and Moor interchangeably. So we obey the law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance and unity. All right. So, we're not out here pushing for anarchy and just, wild and craziness, because we descend from the creators of civilization. And eventually our government will be in a more powerful position than it is now, and we will command the same respect. And there are ways to get things done in a civilized manner. And that's how we go about doing things. We come in with the suits and ties on, dresses, fez, turban, we get things done. We organized as the Moorish Science Temple of America in the year of 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois, November 29th, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America, May 20, 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of the State of Illinois. Okay, so it was changed from a civic organization, which had limitations on it, to a religious organization. Okay, and then the purpose of this religious organization is being stated. So this is what our religion is. This is what we go about. So listen to this. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. Right? So anybody talking anything other than this, they're lost. All right. So, and we know that fallen humanity starts with us. We're not pretending that we're at the top. We've fallen, and that's why the world is in the state it's in, because some of them are following right behind us. And then it's to make our members better citizens. A national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. So even though in each temple, each city or town, each area, we may have some different laws, some different customs, right? Because each Grand Sheik and chairman is empowered to make and enforce law where they're at, right? But at the same time, we're not getting away from this purpose. We can have those laws as long as they're in alignment with the greater purpose, the greater law, and they, in alignment with these laws, with uplifting fallen humanity and following these principles that we have, right? So you still can't flip the whole script and just go do your own thing. It's within reason. You can't go against the laws that we have. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been filed in the Cook County Recorder's Office of Illinois. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, it's got a comma, we have it as the revealed word of Allah. We shall foster the principles of its teachings among our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. That should be highlighted, just so there's no confusion, just like where it says to obey the law, respect and loyalty to governments, to teach make our members better citizens. I would advise highlighting that, right? Because this is from the prophet. And then the Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated and probably the most misunderstood of the world's religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Try to understand what Mohammedanism stands for and some of the things it has contributed to the world. So even today, like back then, there was a lot of ignorance amongst our people about Muslims, Islam, right? We had been taken so far away from who we truly were. And it's still like that now. Muhammad was the founder of the Mohammedan religion. It originated 13 centuries ago on the Arabian Peninsula, where the streams of commerce and culture met and mingled in the Middle Ages, where the markets of exchange were stationed for treasures of India and the products of the Mediterranean coast. There, this religion was established in the unprecedented short period of 20 years, and unlike many other religions, without the aid of any royal patronage and support. Buddhism had its Ashoka, Judaism is Joshua, Christianity is Constantine, but Mohammedanism had no person of royal rank and power to assist in its establishment and spread. Today, this religion is acknowledged by nearly 250 million souls, and it extends over an area equal to 1/3 of the globe. From Arabia, it spread eastward over Persia, Turkestan, Afghanistan, westward across Syria, across Asia Minor, Turkey, southward to Africa, covering more than half of that continent. It found its way to India and beyond in the lands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo. To the early representatives of this faith, the world's depth is incalculably great, for it was they who transmitted the treasures of Greek literature from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance, they who originated the graceful forms of which the Taj Mahal and the Alhambra are most famous. It was they who contributed to the sciences of algebra, chemistry, astronomy, and medicine. They who dotted the Saracen Empire with universities and who built at Baghdad and Cairo the most renowned universities in the world. Some of us may know this, but still, the majority of us don't know this, and especially in the past, right? So our people had no idea that the sciences, pretty much everything, even universities just being clean, having streets that are well lit, all of these things came from the Saracen, the Moors. Okay, and he uses Muhammadan, Moor interchangeably, talking about the same people. Okay, and so trying to change the viewpoint of Islam and Muslims. During those centuries of ecclesiastical despotism, when the Christian church suppressed all intellectual activities, save those that were theological, causing the talent that reproduces to supplant the genius that creates, Mohammedans did all in their power to encourage and stimulate research in every branch of human inquiry. All right, so well, I'm not even going to go in on that, but with Islam, there's no fear of science and things like this. The Moors or Mohammedans added to the beauty and grandeur of Spain, right? So that's interchangeable, Moors or Mohammedans. For centuries, art, science, literature, and chivalry flourished among them, while the rest of Europe was still sunk in the gloom of the Dark Ages. The Moors were the most ingenious and industrious Islam. For the person that's trying to come in here, can we please get that person's information? Islam. All right. Okay, so let's forgive me. Okay. The Moors were the most ingenious and industrious of the subjects of Spain. Their expulsion from Spain in 1610 was one of the chief causes of decadence of that country, for both agriculture and industry fell into decay after their departure. Mohammedanism makes no distinction between high and low, rich and poor. It is like the sky, it has room for all. The Quran should be of interest to all readers. It is the Bible of the Mohammedans, ruling over the customs and actions of over 200 millions of people. It is a work of importance, whether considered from a religious, philosophical, or literary viewpoint. In the promotion of plans for the betterment of mankind, there's ever been some kind of opposition. And strange as it may seem, such opposition has come from sources where there were no ideas or the lack of courage to force attention to ideas, whether in church, state, or the social community. Any attempt to do anything out of the usual way seldom fails to receive criticism, not because the course cannot be pursued legally or that it is unreasonable, but because it has been considered in terms as new. For the person that just joined, says the person that just joined, it says Liz. Would you please in the chat state your name and where you're from and your either your phone or email?
Islam Grand Sheik. I invited Sister Elizabeth.
Okay.
Islam.
Gratitude. All right. The Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. In the main, the opposition has come from the Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms of something new. I'm not going to read this whole paragraph. I actually want to skip down, but I advise people to go through and read this entire thing. Once again, this is written by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But I wanted to come down here. This is important, I think, for all of us to understand. Right? In connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. Okay? We must promote economic security in connection with our religious aims and beliefs. All right. Let's go to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 48, verses 7 and 8. That's on page 59 in the Quran. Let's see. All right. Oops. Chapter 48. That's on page 59. Right? The end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. All right. So right there, it says, in connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. This is a part of our religion. What does this say in verse 7 and 8? Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. All right? So that economic security is a part of our religion. That's why we stick with what the prophet brought. We're protected. This is important. We have to know this. We have to know this inside and out. We have to be able to make this connection. Not even just for other people, just in case somebody's trying to test you or you're in court or something like, no, we need to know what we stand on. So in connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. The preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. This is still true. The prophet wrote this almost 100 years ago, and it's still true. The preaching, like you have other religious institutions, not going to call them out because we don't talk bad about other groups. You have other religious institutions that aren't preaching economic security amongst their own. You have other religious institutions that are in neighborhoods filled with Asiatic people. You have Asiatic people selling drugs, sometimes on the same block where these institutions have been for a long time. And they're not preaching economic security amongst their own. It's not a part of their religion. Y'all get that? So this is a part of our religion. So if there's a temple and people are selling drugs on the same block, if that block, that neighborhood is impoverished, that means that temple's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, because this is a part of our religion, promoting economic security. Y'all get that? All right, so the preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and as intensive as the circumstances demand. It's way past time. The circumstances demand it. No other one thing, he stays on this point for a long time. No other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater what? Economic power. So, it could be talking about the chakras or the Elohim and, spiritual, this, and that. And that's important. Yeah, but if I'm doing that or you're doing that and we're not setting up real businesses that are bringing in finances that are allowing us to attain greater economic power, secure more resources for us, we're faking the funk. We have to be businessmen and businesswomen. I guess we need to be old school. You seen the pictures of the Moors in the 20s, and they were wearing suits and ties. The women had on dresses, and that stuff never goes out of style. That's not like all these other fads, right? They get old real quick. Wearing a suit and tie, that never goes out of style. So that's kind of what we need to be doing, right? We need to be businessmen, businesswomen. It says he's just going on economic. No other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power, right? Our earthly and divine salvation. Better positions, because there's some people that can spit this and they can go on and they can make this sound way better than I could, right? But there has to be more balance. We have to take care of the earthly and the divine. Better positions for our men and women. More business employment for our boys and girls, right? Because if we're not able to employ our own, they're going to be in the streets. Or whoever's going to pay them. Bigger incomes will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. There it goes again. Economic power, economic security. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. I really suggest not telling anybody what to do, but I really suggest highlighting this whole paragraph, just so we know where we stand. True Moorish American Muslims are businessmen and businesswomen. We handle business. We don't just talk about it. We don't just talk about meditating and stuff like that. We're balanced. We do that and we handle our business because we're about the earthly and the divine. Islam, I see you, Brother Shawbay.
Peace. I rise and give perfect praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, honors to all Muslims on the call. I just want to reiterate for just newcomers and whatnot, just to kind of, just relieve them of the stress of of new knowledge. However, there's a quote by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, I believe it's in the Quran. And I'm not quoting directly, but money doesn't make the man. Free national standards is what makes the man or mankind or the mind, because woman can be mankind as well. I only bring that up because sometimes we get caught up in worldly ways, being, and caught up in richness and glamour, and money is involved with that. So, just to kind of be clear, economics is more so the revolution or the stream of income for our culture. And with the Mohammedan faith, we're able to come together with principle and be in business with one another. Islam, I yield.
Islam, brother. And just as it says here, a beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. It's just like that measure that we read in the Quran in chapter 13, where Jesus is speaking to, basically speaking to the poor people. Okay? And he's trying to give them a different outlook on life. All right, so we can't be dependent on anyone else. We have to be independent. We have to be upright, independent, and fearless. And skip this paragraph, but definitely advise reading this. So read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. All right, so we all need to know this and understand this inside and out. All right, Islam, sister, thank you. Gratitude for sharing your information. So just ending this out, in conclusion, I urge you to remember there's work enough for all to do in helping to build a better world. Listen to this. The problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. All right, so once again, it's one of the main purposes of our religion is solving these problems. And it's saying the problems of life are largely social and economic. meaning political and economic, right? We have to have our own. That's what the whole nationality getting us into thinking as a nation, so that we're looking out for ourselves now instead of just voting Democrat because we black or because somebody tried to shame us. Joe Biden actually tried to shame us into voting for him. Talking about if you don't vote for him, you're not black. But they could do that to us if we're not thinking for ourselves. So it's largely social and economic. We need to have our own resources, right? We can't depend on people that's even crazy enough to poison the water, to genetically modify all the food. We can't depend on them. So that's huge. They're largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they're moral and spiritual. So we're not forgetting that. We also have to clean ourselves up. We have to be the best version of ourselves possible. And that's why it's also moral and spiritual. So we're working to take care of all of that. And then also, if you look at the Moorish Science Temple of America, it's in the same Moorish literature. It's just called the Moorish Science Temple of America. Um, Skipping down here, it says, we are interested in freeing ourselves and our children from the greatest economic plight. Greatest plight, once again, economic slavery. And then saying this can be best be done by encouraging, patronizing, and establishing our own businesses and what? Cultivating our own acres of land. We have to grow our own food. We can't be dependent on anyone else. And this is all a part of our religion. This falls up in our religion. This is not just in the Moorish literature. This is once again in our Quran. That's in chapter 48. So we're not like all spaced out talking about all the spirituality, but we're not working to do what we actually need to take care of our earthly needs. Because if we're not taking care of our earthly needs, that limits what we can do spiritually. Now we're putting a handicap on us. Now we're making it so our children think this is lame. Cause like that, we're not even growing our own food. What are you talking about? Just like what we sound like complaining about them giving us genetically modified food. That sounds like a slave. This is what they're giving us. Why don't we get our own? Right? So in chapter 48, once again, therefore we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. So we have to be able to make that connection. So from our standpoint, taking care of our economic needs is a part of our religion, right? So our temple needs to open businesses. There's businesses that are going to be bringing in finances under our temple, and nobody can say anything about it because that's a part of our religion. You understand? And so while maybe other institutions can't do that, we can. We have to uplift fallen humanity, and that is part of our duty. All right. And so that's important. We all need to know that inside and out. Let's go ahead and go into the Quran. We're just going over questions 1 through 10. Since we're starting back over, if you don't mind, I'll just read a few words from this Quran questionnaire commentaries. This is by Brother Nathaniel Chambers L. If you're looking at the front cover of the Quran questionnaire, you see the prophet holding the woman. On her dress, it says humanity, right? So the prophet's holding humanity. And in that, just that image in and of itself, that's basically where humanity is right now. That's our state of being. Okay? And this is, theoretically, this is where we need to be. We need to be in the arms of the prophet because the prophet, if you look down, he's lifting humanity out of the cares of the world and onto the solid rock of salvation. Right? So this is symbolic. That if we trust our prophet, right? Because humanity in the state that it's in right now is suffering. It's almost looks like this woman is, is knocked out or something, unconscious, which is what we are. We're unconscious. We don't even know who we are. We don't even know where we came from. They change our name every couple of years. It makes no sense for us to go from being called Negroes to colored people, actually calling ourselves colored. And then when they tried to get us to go along with black, like in the 50s and 60s, our people didn't really like that. They didn't take on black yet. They a lot of people said those were fighting words. But then they would go along with colored because they'd accepted that. And then in the 70s, started going along with black, and now it's African American. This is insane. So humanity's unconscious. But if we trust our prophet and follow our prophet to a destiny that is neither uncertain nor unknown, we will be standing on the solid rock of salvation and lifted out of the cares of the world, right? So all of these things, all of these cares of the world, everything that we see going on around us, everything that we could be caught up in, if we follow these divine instructions that are in our Quran, we cannot get caught up. Islam. All right. For the question in the chat, was that Islam? Hang on one second. Okay, so let me go back into here. All right, so yeah, if we trust in our prophet, if we follow our divine instructions, when you look in the Holy Quran or the Moorish Science Temple of America, the top of every page, it says divine instructions from the prophet. So we follow these divine instructions, we will be lifted from the cares of the world. What's an example of that? One example. Can anybody give an example of how we follow the divine instructions? We'll be lifted out of the cares of the world.
Islam.
Islam.
Peace. We are a theocratic nation. We believe in Allah as the sovereign power, which connects us through our jural society as well, because we are the lords of the plain made manifest.
Islam. So one thing with that, like with what you're speaking on, okay, we're lords of the plane of manifest, right? As Muslims, we were not created in sin, right? We're created with the perfect seed of Allah in us. So we have all the capabilities of Allah, right? We have high capabilities, far higher than we may think of when we limit ourselves. All right. So we're not born in sin as we're told in other religions. All right. And so just that aspect, thinking of yourself in that aspect, maybe that changes how we go about doing things on a day-to-day basis, right? Knowing that you're not born in sin, you're not evil from conception, right? So that's powerful. And there's several other things in here. I mean, we have marriage instructions, right? We have so many things in here that if we actually follow this, we won't have as many problems as we do in life, right? And just things in here, like we were going over on Holy Day, right? Where Jesus is being tempted. And it's basically just showing you symbolically the lower self tempting you on a daily basis, just with thoughts that are emanating from the lower self. So this teaches us how to recognize those thoughts. And then it gives us steps and tools on how to subdue the lower self. All right. And so this sets us up for success. And so this is powerful. And that's really all I wanted to say on that image. There's a lot more to it though, but that's the basics of it, right? We follow these instructions. Our destiny is neither uncertain nor unknown. That's how you stand on the solid rock of salvation, right? Because you have the tools to succeed no matter what situation you are in. The cares of the world are all the worldly influences that appeal to our carnal nature. They turn us away from things that are spiritual, and they make us forget our connection, our divine connection to Allah. All right. So by following our prophet, we can always be connected to our higher self, and by following the higher self, we will always succeed. You know, because success is guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed when we're stuck in the carnal self, because the carnal self travels the world to and fro, seeking whom it may devour. That's really what it's about. It's not looking out for our greatest good. It's just seeking pleasure and sensations. All right, so let's go ahead and go in here. There was a question though, saying, are we encouraged to correct our status, meaning our birth certificate? No. I would suggest leaving your birth certificate alone. Some of the older Moors just say, leave all your old business as is, right? Um, I would go a little further than that and just say that, hey, your birth certificate is proof, right? That you were at one point labeled whatever label they slapped on you. Whether I know on the forms now you don't see race and ethnicity on there, but they were putting Negro and colored and black on there. I would say leave all that alone. Leave it alone. But I do suggest going to the county courthouse and actually fixing your elder bay to your name on the record in the county. And then with that, you can go and you can add your title to anything, but leave your birth certificate alone. Just on the instruments that you use on a regular basis, like your your driver's license, passport. You can update all your records, like your social security card, even though you don't use that a lot. But birth certificate, leave that alone. No need to change it. And definitely don't authenticate it. People tell people to do that. I leave all of that stuff alone. All right. I've never seen anyone get any benefit from doing any of that stuff. All right.
Islam, if I may add, first and foremost, I'd like to rise and give praise to Allah, honors to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali, honors to all Allah's prophets, and honors to all you Moors in attendance. I'd like to add, being a part of this divine national movement, becoming a Moorish American Muslim should not ever make your life harder. It should make you a better person mentally, physically, and spiritually. Islam, this is for your upliftment of your spirit, of your knowledge of self. This is to increase your awareness of your not only yourself but the world around you, and to make you a better person inside and out. It brings awareness to your higher and lower selves. It brings awareness to who you were before you were called Black, Negro, colored, etc. So this gives us a sense of um, pride, and it makes us happy to know that we came from something other than slavery, something other than less than people, because that's what they teach us. They teach us that we're nothing, we're less than, we're underneath everybody else. All we was slaves. They start teaching us that in school, and growing up knowing that, especially if you are in a school and most of your classmates are Europeans or of European descent, because they teach how great their forefathers were, and then they say, hey, you guys were nothing but slaves. I don't know if you guys seen, I think it was on Urkel, it was on the Cosby Show. They all had a segment or a show that depicted, even in what's the one with Arnold, Three's Company or something, whatever that's called, Different Strokes. And in school, they told those Asiatic boys that their ancestors were slaves, and it made them feel horrible. So they instill that, they plant that seed in us on purpose to build that inferiority complex. And this right here, this information that we're learning helps us to heal that trauma, you know, to overcome those lies and restore our faith and our pride so that we could become better people and better citizens. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam, sister, gratitude, and that's powerful. I mean, they start us off as slavery for a reason. Anytime you see them rushing to promote stuff like they putting all this money behind slave movies and films and trying to keep this in our face, you should know that should make your senses go up, like something fishy going on here. You can't trust it. All right. And Islam, we're gonna do questions 1 through 10. Of course, if anybody has anything they'd like to add or speak on, feel free to speak up. Question 1, who made you? Allah. Question 2, who is Allah? Allah is the father of the universe. Can we see him? No. 4, where's the nearest place we can meet him? In the heart. 5, who is Noble Drew Ali? He is Allah's prophet. 6, what is a prophet? A prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh. 7, what is the duty of a prophet? To save nations from the wrath of Allah. 8, who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America? Noble Drew Ali. 9, what year was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? 1913 AD. Where? Newark, New Jersey. Let's go back up to 1. So 1, who made you? Allah. We always go to Surah 2, Ayah 30 in the Quran. Why? Because in there, Allah is speaking on making man. In there, Allah also tells what station we have. And it's right in alignment with what is in our Holy Quran in chapter 1. But in Surah 2, Ayah 30, behold, thy Lord said to the angels, I will create a vice regent on earth. They said, wilt thou place therein one who will make mischief? These are the angels there who will make mischief therein and shed blood, whilst we do celebrate thy praises and glorify thy name. And he said, I know what ye know not. So the angels are questioning Allah, like, why are you going to make your vice regent, the vice regent, a person exercising delegated power on behalf of a sovereign or ruler, a person regarded as an earthly representative of God, especially the Pope, right? The Pope is the Christian vice regent for God. Where they tell you you were born in slavery and the Pope is the vice regent. Even though that's not in alignment with what's in the Bible. It's not in alignment. That's still what's being taught. But in our Quran, it lets us know the Lord created us all to be the vice regent on earth. And the angels are wondering, why are you doing this? He said, I know what you know not, right? If you keep going on in Ayah 31, it says, and he taught Adam the name of all the things. Then he placed them before the angels and said, tell me the name of these if ye are right. They said, glory to thee of knowledge. We have none save that thou hast taught us. In truth, it is thou who art perfect in knowledge and wisdom. He said, O Adam, tell them their natures. When he had told them, Allah said, did I not tell you that I know the secrets of heaven and earth, and I know what ye reveal and what ye conceal? So the Adams are showing respect to the Adams. The angels are now showing respect to Adam. And behold, we said to the angels, bow down to Adam. And they bowed down. Not so Iblis. He refused and was haughty. He was of those who rejected the faith, right? So in this measure, right, it's being demonstrated that Allah created man to be the Lord of the plains of manifest, which is also what's taught to us in the Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Quran. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength, and thought must be exercised by the exercise, developed by the exercise of strength. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe the man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Right? So Allah's telling the angels this, like, I know what ye know not, right? Let everything stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplast, of mineral, of plant, of beast, but he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self, right? Also in chapter 1, the human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was full ordained to be the Lord of plane of soul and of the plane of things made manifest. So that's definitely better than hearing that your ancestors were slaves and that's all you came from. Now you know that you are a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh, that you are ordained, as Brother Shaw Bay said, to be the Lord of the plane of manifest, right? So we have a greater purpose that gives us something to work towards. That also gives us motivation to be the best version of ourselves. That gives us motivation to actually do the work to subdue our lower self, to bring out this greater you that's within. As great as everybody might think that they are, hopefully we all, confident in ourselves. As great as we might think we are, we still could be far greater if we do the work to subdue our lower self, to reduce the carnal nature, because the carnal nature serves a purpose. It's actually here to help us survive in the physical world, but we forgot who we were and it took the lead, and it's not good at being in control. All right, so we must put Allah back in control. And so that's really what this is about. This is powerful, and this is returning our true nature to us. And that's right in chapter 1 of the Quran. It's also right in the beginning of the Quran questionnaire. Who are you? Who made you? Right? So Allah made us. And then the second question, who is Allah? Like following up, who are you talking about? Because you might hear some people say a lot. So, oh, they're talking about a lot, because a lot, A-L-A-T, was a word for one deity in the past by a certain culture, right? But we're not talking about that. Even though linguistically somebody could make that connection, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Father of the universe, the creator of the universe. So it doesn't matter what anyone else says. We're talking about the creator of the universe. All right? That's who made us. Can we see him? No. Why? Because he's spiritual. The spiritual reality is what's real. The physical is a shadow. It's merely a shadow or something that emanates from the spiritual, meaning that in the spiritual realm, things are happening, and what we see in the physical is the effect of what's happening in the spiritual realm. So put this on me. This is just my take. But if there's a fight or an argument going on in the spiritual realm, in the physical realm, we're going to see things manifested that are out of discord, things that are like the effects of that. All right. So Allah is unseen because it's of the spirit realm, and the spiritual realm is what's true. The physical realm is a part of falsehood because it will pass away at one point in time. We're given the key in 4, where's the nearest place we can meet him, and the answer is in the heart. Right? Can anybody speak on that? Anybody have anything they want to share about that? Meeting Allah in the heart? What are we talking about?
Islam, that's holy breath.
Islam. So that's speaking about the soul, right? It's not really speaking about the heart. It's necessarily in our body. Right? Not really speaking about the organ that's pumping blood through the body. If you look in chapter 33, verse 4 in the Quran, it says, the heart of the grateful man is like the clouds of heaven. Chapter 40, verse 17, it says, the heart of man cannot attend at once to too many things. Chapter 31, verse 2 says, keep the desires of thy heart, therefore, within the bounds of moderation. All right, the desires of thy heart. So it's really talking about, something that's not even limited to the body. All right. So, but also, this is letting us know that Allah, our creator, is not necessarily out there somewhere, because each of us has this heart that's being spoken of, whether it's in the body or not. Each of us has this connection. I see somebody has a hand raised. Islam.
Islam, Grand Sheik. Yes. I'd like to say something about that, about where can we meet Allah in the heart. And this is Sister Adams Bay. And I was listening to that and I'm thinking, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. When it says in the heart, it's like I was always taught that, and what we're being taught now. Like you say, Allah is within all of us. Okay, He's within us. And I remember hearing a long time ago, it says that Allah, at that time, people were saying God won't reside in an unclean place, meaning in within us. The thing is, what I get from that is, if the temple, say the temple is within me. It's like in the church, people will say in Christianity, they say, we are the church, So anyway, the temple is me, and Allah resides within me. He's a part of me. That's why it says that we can't die as long as Allah lives, and Allah is forever. Am I correct? So when I say that Allah is a part of us, and of course, the temple, we have to not defile the temple. I yield. I'm sorry, I didn't start out right, but I would like to say this. I would like to give honor to Allah, to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, to our prophet, and to all the Moors that's on the call. I stand and I honor all. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Islam says gratitude. Definitely right there with you. In our Quran, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 38, verse 6 says, know that as thy heart, so also thy soul is one. Islam. So once again, just giving more information on the connection that we have with Allah. I see Brother Jackson Bay, Islam.
Sheikh. Also, it says that the nearest place we can meet Allah is in the heart, and just bringing it back that Allah is within us, that we don't have to go any other place than that heaven, right? If Allah is, if the meeting place of Allah is in our heart, and then it goes back to heaven and hell and earth is not a destination, it's a mindset, right? And hold on. That heaven and hell is just a mindset, and it was within us, right? And that we don't have to even go to church, right, to be close to God, right? Or we don't have to travel like our brothers in the East and go to the Kaaba and be closer to Allah. All we have to do is listen to that small, still voice within us. Islam, peace and love.
Islam. So this is cutting out the middleman. Islam. And letting you know you're not looking out there, looking somewhere else. Who is Noble Drew Ali? He is Allah's prophet, right? Sorry. So we're establishing who the prophet Noble Drew Ali is to us, right? He's exalted. He's a prophet. Ali, that name means the Most High, right? So this is establishing who he is to us, right? If we look just from an Islamic perspective, we know in the Quran, 3 different occasions, it lets you know that most assuredly we sent a prophet to every nation from amongst them and speaking their language, right? So that they can know the laws of Allah and so that they can get right. And this is who the prophet is to us, because as we saw in that cover of the questionnaire, right, we were unconscious and we were drowning in the cares of the world. And the Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us what we needed to be on the solid rock of salvation, right? So he is definitely Allah's prophet. And then question 6, what is a prophet? So we're getting some insight into this now. What is a prophet? A prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh, right? So the thought obviously is not physical, but it's manifested in the flesh. It's a spirit of Allah manifested in the flesh. We also get this same question in relation to us, that we're all thoughts of Allah manifested in the flesh, which I take to let it be known that we are the same or have the same potential as our prophet. All right. Going into question 7, what is the duty of a prophet? To save nations from the wrath of Allah, right? The wrath is justice. It's bringing justice. The prophet lets us know in the divine warning, Allah is not pleased with our sins, that we're suffering because of our own doing, because we've gone away from our own nature. We don't honor our forefathers, right? And he's coming to bring us back in alignment. And so this is something it's true, and most of us have no idea that we're out of alignment. This is something too that I mentioned with that show that was on TV. It's pretty good. I would advise checking it out, called Them. Basically, the whole series was like a horror story, science fiction based off of racism. And they have a scene in there, that last episode, that was so powerful, where they're basically showing this preacher, this European preacher, who's letting them know, he's letting this couple that's suffering know, this Asiatic couple know that they're suffering because they don't honor their forefathers. And he doesn't say what it is, that they're supposed to be doing, because that's the biggest secret. Our prophet came to reveal this. Everyone else is concealing it. No one else will tell us this. No one. Even some of the people who seem like they mean us well, even our own people who come to help us, who seem like they mean well, they either don't know or they're bound by whatever obligations they have to not reveal this to us, right? So the prophet was completely free. He's revealing this. This is what it is. We have to fix ourselves. We're out of alignment. So this is what I think. This is how I feel like this is the completion of what needed to be done. He's coming to bring us the truth, why we're truly suffering, and how to correct it. And then question 8, who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America? Noble Drew Ali. And then we're given the year, 1913. At that time, allegedly, it was called the Old Canaanite Temple. In Newark, New Jersey, Newark, New Jerusalem. That's all I have to build on that. If anybody else has anything they'd like to add to that, or any questions, though, feel free to speak up. All right. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and go into the closing of the meeting. Well, first, does anybody have any questions in general?
Islam. How do we got a prophet, but we're Islamic? Isn't Muhammad the last prophet? I mean, how do we answer that? How do we answer that? I know you brought up 3 surahs.
Yep. Islam. So the best way to go about answering that would be to go to the Quran, and if people are sincere and have the time, they're not just trying to argue or fight. I say, well, let's go to the Quran and let's actually look up what Allah says about the prophets. And hang on, I'm doing that right now. So okay, so when people say this, of course, they're talking about the Khatam al-Nabiyin. This is a phrase in Arabic which means the seal of the prophets. This is taken to mean is in reference to the Prophet Muhammad as being the last of the prophets, right? But there's several issues with that. Well, first off, Allah doesn't contradict himself. And in the Quran, in chapter 10, verse 47, 14, verse 4, and 1636, they all say that we send a messenger with a Rasul. A Rasul is the highest form of prophets. There's a hierarchy. So when you hear a messenger saying a Rasul, it's a prophet. So we send a Rasul to every nation. This is in each one of those. In 1047, it says, and for every ummah is a community or a nation, there is a Rasul. When the Rasul comes, the matter will be judged between them with justice, and they will not be wronged. Every nation. Then it's in 14:4. We sent not a messenger except to teach in the language of his own people in order to make things clear to them. Now Allah leads straying those whom he pleases and guides whom he pleases, and he is exalted in power, full of wisdom. Then in 1636, for surely we sent amongst every people a messenger with the command, serve Allah and eschew evil. Of the people were some whom Allah guided, and some on whom error became inevitably established. So travel through the earth and see what was the end of those who denied the truth. So this is being established for it to be in there 3 times. You can't contradict that. The law lets it be known. He sends not just the prophet, because just somebody, a person who's prophesizing is a Nabi. He sends a Rasul. The Rasul doesn't just prophesize, they also bring the law. Okay? So he sends a Rasul, a prophet, to every nation. And that's in there 3 times, just to make sure that they get the word of Allah, that they know what's going on. And that's in there so that it can't be forgotten. Can't contradict that. Now you have the Khatam al-Nabiyin, the seal of all prophets. People can say that means, because that's in 33 verse 41. Muhammad is not the father of any of your men, but he is the apostle of Allah, and Khatam al-Nabiyin, the seal of the prophets, right? So Allah doesn't make mistakes, but men do, right? Allah can't contradict those various surahs where he's saying that he's sending a Nabi, I mean, not a Nabi, a Rasul to every nation. He can't go back and contradict that, right? So if we look, we'll find out that people are purposely interpreting the Khatam, the seal, to mean the last. Purposely. When you place a seal on something, you're making it authentic. All right. So these are the words from Ibn Khaldun. He was an Arab scholar. He was born in 1332. He was speaking on how it's wrong to interpret the word Khatam to mean the last. Right? Khatam denotes the completion of a thing, the authenticity. And he gives some examples, right? Hang on. Okay, so in
Islam Grand Sheikh, what was the Arab scholar's name? Ibn Khaldun, you said?
Yeah, Ibn Khaldun.
Islam.
Khaldun. Okay, so to shorten this up, he's giving you examples of Khatam being used and showing how it's not meaning the last. One of the sayings of the Holy Prophet, he calls his uncle, Hazrat Abbas, Khatuma Muhajirin. All right? His uncle was a refugee, muhajir. That's refugee. It said Katamu Muhajirin. So he's not saying that he was the last refugee of the whole Muslim world.
Mhm.
Maybe he's saying that he was the best. He was the best of them, but he wasn't saying he was the last. Also, and these are coming from the hadiths, right?
Mhm.
So Hazrat Ali, he's called the Katamu Aliyah, and this is saying that basically he was, because Aliyah was a saint. That's the name for a saint. So they're saying that he's the best of the saints, not the last. There's a poet, Hassan bin Wahab, and he's also got that Katam on his title. He was a shura. He was a poet. He was called the Katamu Shura. He was not the last poet. Even though that might sound cool, say I'm the last poet. He wasn't the last poet. He was the best of the poets. There's several other examples, and if you're talking to somebody who's really being inquisitive and they're not trying to just argue for no reason, I would go over that stuff with them, because there's nothing wrong with this. There's interpretation of man that is distorted things. As people have different goals that they wanted to push, they had different agendas, and it's convenient for others to say this is the last prophet for the whole world. We're over here going through our own ordeals, right? You saw the cover. I mean, that cover of the Quran questionnaire, that really represents our people, like unconscious,
Mhm.
you know? And so, I mean, I would just say, well, convenient for you, but that doesn't work for me. And then you can show actual examples from the Quran of Mecca how that is incorrect. All right. Just for that to be in there 3 times that Allah sends a prophet to every nation, that's good enough for me. But then you can also do the research and find out how that word that they take to mean a seal does not mean the last. Islam. I see another hand raised.
Yes, Grand Chief. Sister Adams Bay. I would like to speak to that. I'm so glad that came up. And I've never read what you said, but I agree with what you said, and mainly because I'm like, I tell everybody that hasn't been on this call, most of you probably have been on now, I'm 74, and not because I'm 74. In fact, I'll be 75 this month in a few days. But I am an avid student from the Bible, and I read this myself. If I hadn't read it, I would never say it. But Jesus said at the time when, if we believe that he was whatever, when he appeared to his disciples, he said to them, and when we come on again for the next class, I'm going to look it up and find it. I'm not that person that can just rib off scriptures, and tell you where it is, but I saw it and I can find it again. So Jesus said to his disciples, he said he promised to send another. And the church took it to mean the Holy Ghost, what they say, the Holy Ghost. But I never thought that. All my life, I never thought that. I believed it as he said it, that he would send us another comforter. And that comforter, to me, is another prophet. Like Grand Sheikh say, I don't believe Muhammad was the last, the seal of the prophets. I don't believe that. And he also said in there, when he sends someone, he would send someone from our, meaning like in our community that would speak our language. I tried to learn Arabic, and I know it can be done. I'm sure some of you might speak it. I don't. I couldn't learn it. I don't know. But either way, my thing is that I read that and I believe it's true. And I truly believe that our prophet Noble Drew Ali is the one that Jesus spoke of, that he is the one because he speaks our language and he is from our community. I yield the floor.
And he said that prophet will speak of my name.
Yes, he said he would speak of him. He would speak of, that's right. That's what he said.
You gotta know these things.
Islam. So I definitely agree. A lot of people, I guess, like coming from an Arabic mind state would argue that the Prophet Muhammad was sent to the entire world. And I wouldn't disagree with that, because all prophets ultimately have a universal message. All right.
Yes.
You still can't take that one phrase that never refers to being the last, except for in this case with prophethood. And maybe, since I'm not an expert in Arabic, it can mean last, literally, sometimes, right? But it can also mean a seal, authenticated. And if you have those 3 times, if it was only in the Quran once, they could say maybe now, but it's in there 3 times. You can't contradict that. I'm sorry, they can't contradict that. And so it makes sense that Allah would send a messenger to every people from amongst them and speaking their
Yeah.
language.
I truly believe what Jesus said, that he would send another comforter for us. And I would just believe that. I believe that way before I came into Islam.
All right, Islam. Yep, Islam. All right, does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Any questions? All right, if not, want to announce without further ado, we will go into the closing of the meeting. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. Motion detected in the backyard. All right. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. This meeting is now adjourned. Peace and love, Morris.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, Morris. Peace and love.
Islamism.
Love Muslims. So